Hey guys, how are you today? I'm back in my craft table and I'm working on an idea. I don't know how many of you guys have tons and tons and tons of sequins. A while ago, sequins were all the rage. So of course I went and bought them in like every color, shape, whatever. And I still use them. I'm going to use them today, but I don't use them as much as I used to. And I thought, I wanted to figure out a creative way to incorporate them, not just use them as little gems or so on my card. And so I had this idea of making this really cool sparkly rainbow. And as I was going, I even made this into an easel card. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how I made this rainbow and what I used to do that. And then I'll show you how I made an easel card, which is super easy to do and just adds a little va-va-voom or zhuzh to your finished product. So let's get started here. The first thing you're going to want to do is figure out what shape you want to add your sequins to. I thought a rainbow was super easy, and I had a rainbow die. So I went and found a rainbow die, and I used my silicone mat, and I followed the directions on my embossing machine, and I embossed the rainbow into a piece of white cardstock. So hopefully you can see that. This gives me my pattern. So because if I were going to try to make a rainbow without a pattern, I don't know what shape it would be, but it probably wouldn't look as nice as this when it was done. It'd probably just be like all wonky and whatnot. The one thing I found was you need a really strong glue. And I'm going to get my sequins out here. And I have red in a couple different sizes, but I'm going to use the smaller size red that I have. And I have my little pick tool. And I'm going to just put some glue down on the edge of this and a few sequins on my table. This was the easiest way I found to do this. And go ahead and start smushing these into my glue here. And I will speed this up so you don't have to watch the entire process, but I do want you, to be able to see how I did it. Because it's to me at first I was like, this has got to be, you gotta be kidding, Chris. What are you doing? But this really wasn't that bad. And I'll even time myself to tell you how long it took to do the whole thing. It was pretty fast, and I think it turned out really, really neat. So, I will do those things for you. I'm just using the end of that there to scoot those in, and I'm just putting a little more glue. And like I said, I'll speed this up and show you the end process here in a second. Okay, so it took me about 13 minutes to put all the sequins on there. I do want to point out a few things. It's okay that if they don't all match. I think they look really great that they don't all match. It just gives it more interest and kind of neat to look at. So once you get those all glued down, which really wasn't all that painful, like I said, 13 minutes. It takes me maybe half hour to an hour to color an image, depending on how complicated it is. So 13 minutes is actually really, really fast. So anyway, the next step is you want to cut this out. And now I have a shape of a rainbow that I can use on my card. Okay, to create the background, I wanted to make it look like sky, so I'm going to keep this really simple. The next steps of completing this card is to add our sentiment on, and I wanted something a little bit different for this, and I saw this stamp set that said "Hello Gorgeous," and I really like that. So I'm going to put my rainbow up here as kind of a place marker, so it's going to go there. And so I'm going to put my gorgeous. I'm going to have some clouds under my rainbow, so I'm going to make sure I have a little room for the clouds. Perfect. We'll set that aside to dry. And to incorporate the sentiment into the cloud, I'm going to take hello and I'm going to stamp that onto my cloud. This way it's kind of all pulled together. I got a little fingerprint. I can take care of that. If you guys do not have one of these tools in your craft room, you have to get this. This sand eraser is amazing. I just want to make sure I'm not smearing my sentiment as I'm working on it. So the sand eraser literally just buffs off the top layer of paper. And if you use VersaFine, which is, in my opinion, one of the best blacks for sentiments, it buffs off that top layer. VersaFine sits on top of the paper. So it's kind of a really neat way. Look, you never knew I made the mistake. So we'll set that aside to dry. And another little design feature I decided was I was going to tear the bottom of this. I just wanted to add a little interest without adding any more bulk or taking away from that rainbow. So I'm just tearing the bottom of this towards me. Then we can go ahead and glue this to our black card base. And this is cut at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And we're just going to center that. And now we're going to add some foam tape to the back of our rainbow. Now when you do this, at least what my thinking is, I'm putting on more than I probably normally would, but because these are kind of coming apart because they're part of a die, you know, like the little cuts between, I wanted to make sure that I put enough foam tape on here that I was definitely making sure that nothing was gonna separate and fall off. So I realize this is a little overkill. Let's go ahead and peel up our release paper. We can go ahead and stick our rainbow down. How pretty that is. And now we have our cloud on either side. So let's add some foam tape. I'm going to add foam tape to the bottom of my cloud on both sides. And then I'm going to use some glue to attach the cloud to the rainbow. So I'm going to put some glue here. How cute is that? Now you may have seen this little heart floating around my desk. I did not put one of these on my original, but because there's no purple in the rainbow, I don't know why that bothers me. I was thinking about maybe adding a little purple heart. What do you guys think? Or does it look pink? Maybe right there in the center on the card. Does that get lost in there? Well, I'm still just gonna leave it here off to the side. I'm not gonna make any decisions quite yet, but it's an idea. And this is a 4 1/4 by 11 inch paper. I've scored it at 5 1/2, and I've also scored it at 2 3/4. I am only going to put glue here on this piece down here, and I'm putting a lot because I really want it to hang on to the card nice and tight. And I'm going to line up the bottom of the card. This is making an easel card. So when this is all done, this card will stand up like this. So it'll sit real nice and pretty on someone's desk. I don't want it to quite do that yet. So we're just going to set this here to dry for a second. And let me get my original out while this one's drying. So here we have the original. Now inside my original, I put my inside sentiment here at the bottom so you can read the outside right into the inside. But what the most important piece you need to create is a stop. This gives the card something to lean up against so it doesn't just, here this one doesn't have a stop, so it just kind of flops around, and no one wants a floppy card. So we definitely need to create this stop, and then we need to stamp our inside sentiment. Okay, to create a stop, the first thing you want to do is figure out what kind of paper you want to be showing. Like in my original, I don't know, I picked gold because gold seemed to go so well with rainbow, so I put just a strip of gold here. So I picked up a piece of scrap gold, and then I went to my scrap paper and I cut some white pieces of cardstock. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, I know these are definitely longer, that's okay. I'm just going to lay down the white cardstock on top of this gold. And I like to do 3. You can do more, but I don't want to create a lot of bulk inside the card. And then I'm just going to use my scissors to trim off the extra here. Now, you could also use foam tape I have done that in the past. It works great. That's another great way to go. But I like this method a little better now because this is actually thinner than foam tape. So it gives me enough to create that stopping mechanism, but it's also, you know, not so thick that it's going to cause any bumps here on the back side of my card. I've gone ahead and put the sentiment onto a block. I love this sentiment and I love the outside sentiment because I can use this card for anything. This would be great for a birthday, anything, you know, thinking of you. This could go in any which way or direction. I'm going to do this a little different than my original. I had an idea about what if we put this heart down here. Yeah, let's try that. So I'm gonna, it's not glued down, I'm just kind of placing it there so I can kind of eyeball this. I'm gonna put the sentiment above that. And now I can take glue and put that on the back of my stop. And actually, I'm gonna use, make sure I got my stop. Okay. I love both of these glues. This one, the Barely Art Glue, if you've not used this, this is wonderful for little things like sequins. I do think the Tombow Mono Adhesive is a little bit stronger, which is why I used it for the ones on the front. But this dries perfectly clear, so it was kind of a toss-up on which way to go. But there we go. This needs to dry just a second. But there is our finished card. Isn't that cool? We got an easel card, and then a beautiful sparkly sequined rainbow. I would love to know what you guys think. Do you like the solution compared to, here's my original. Do you guys like the darker blue sky versus the lighter blue sky? That's one thing I changed up a little bit, and I added that one little heart sequin here. I always love your thoughts. I love to know what you guys are thinking. I love to know if you like this card idea. Is it something you would try? I hope you guys are able to get some of your stash used up. And thanks for joining me for another card video. And I'll see you on the next one.